Welcome back. In this task, you are going to identify the channels and processes the customer will go through on this journey, and you will also plot them on the map. A process describes the manner in which the customer moves from one stage of the journey to the next, while a channel describes the medium through which that interaction takes place. Let's start by configuring the process for each stage of the journey. To do so, click on the gear icon. In the window that pops up, you'll see a title that says Configure Process, and it will show you 4 options of 4 different kinds of processes that you can configure. You will now select a process type that best represents how your customers interact at this stage of the journey. If your customer has to take one step before the next and can't go back to the stage before, then you select a linear process. A non-linear process is ideal if the customer has relative freedom in the sequences of actions they need to take to move from the start to the end. In an ongoing process, the processes are repeated from time to time, while a bidirectional process is used when one step leads to another, but the customer can go back to the previous step. At the research stage, your customer will spend a lot of time on the internet finding out about cars. It will most probably be a back and forth process until the customer finally decides on which cars he or she would like to consider. So I'm going to select a non-linear process. Now that I've selected a non-linear process, I'm going to decide the number of channels by which the user or the customer will interact with. To do that, I'll go to the bottom of that window and increase the number of channels from 1 to 2. If I had 3 or more channels, I could keep increasing it until I have enough channels representing all the medium that I want to show or reflect on the map. But since I'm going to reflect only 2 channels, I'll increase the number of channels to 2, and then I'll click on Done. You will notice a non-linear process mark will appear in the process and channels under the research stage, with 2 blank channels which I can now fill to reflect the channels through which the customer will interact at this stage. This is a process diagram, while these circles with the plus sign inside represent channels. To add a channel to my map, I'll click on this blank icon. I can search from an array of channels. However, my user, that is Christine, she spends a lot of time researching on her mobile phone. My data that I gathered during my research shows that she spends 50% of her time on her mobile phone for researching. So I'm going to represent the stage with a smartphone. I'll click on it. Make sure that the icon has changed from a black icon to a colored icon. Then I'll add it to my map. Sometimes she also conducts her research on a website. Like maybe, for instance, she has seen something on her phone and then she decides that she needs to have a bigger view. And so she moves from her phone to her laptop. So, but all this takes place through a website. So I'm going to add for the second blank space, I'm going to click on it and I'm going to check for websites. I type in websites in the search channel, then adding websites to the process diagram. It's that simple to add process diagrams and channels to your map. Now I'm going to repeat this process for every stage and then I'll explain what I've done. So I've completed inputting the processes and channels for each stage of the customer journey, and now I'm going to explain what I've done. For the consideration stage, I selected a bidirectional process diagram and increased the number of channels to 2. I now selected a smartphone and face-to-face icons to represent the channels that I'm using at this stage of the journey. For the test drive stage, I selected a linear process diagram. I also selected a salesperson and a building because most likely at this stage, the buyer will be interacting with the salesperson in the showroom and the test drive will take place in a showroom, which is a building. So those are the reasons why I selected those two icons at, as channels for this stage of the journey. Now at the selection stage, I also used a linear process diagram rather, and I selected a decision age to reflect what she'll need to decide on which car she's buying at this stage. At the trading stage, I selected a linear process diagram and I used an in-person icon and an all-hands meeting to describe the people through which she'll interact when she is evaluating trading offers and accepting trading offers from the car dealer. At the financing and insurance stage, it was also a linear process diagram that I selected and the payment confirmed icon as well as the wallet was used to represent the means through which she'll interact at this stage. For the purchase and delivery stage, it's a linear process where she'll likely have her car delivered to her from her to her at her home, or she'll have a meeting where she'll have a meeting where she'll sign the papers to have her car. Then finally, the after sales stage is an ongoing process where if through feedback, she'll get information and updates about her car. By now, you should have an understanding of how to create process and channels on your map. Think deeply about what the process is like for your customer and what channels by which your customer will interact in each process. Having a proper understanding of this phase can open up opportunities for improvement. Congratulations, you have completed your fifth task. In this task, you identified your customers' processes and channels and you plotted them on the map. In the next task, you will describe these processes in ordinary language, just the way your customer would.